Okay, I believe I've got this first gen uh, parsing of mod manager data complete. There's not much code to it, but the data was kind of scattered, and so I'll need to iron this out a little bit because a lot of the other applications don't really use a load order per se, but other utilities that I've written in the past that I want to upgrade to the custom libraries as opposed to everything being hard coded in the actual app itself. I'm going to need to access load orders. So let me show everyone basically what I've done. Okay, so to start out with, the package that I'm going to upload here, and very very shortly, I went ahead and put some additional icons. See, you can see the conflict utility, and then I've got the MO2 one and the vortex one. And basically, the way that I designed the library is startup parameters are additive. So you have startup parameters that you can specify from the shell, from the command line. You have startup parameters that you can specify from an icon, which in a sense works very similar to how the shell passes it. And then you have startup parameters that are defined in each application's ini. So what I did, since it's additive, meaning that the last one to be loaded overrides everything else. So in effect, what happens is I load the command line parameters. I believe though, well, I think the command line parameters would actually have precedence. I have to go back and take a look. But let's say the startup parameters load and then the command line parameters load next. So I have a list where, where you could have two keywords that are replicated, but that's fine because it goes from top to bottom in the list as it's processing the keywords, as it's breaking them apart and getting the value and determining what to do with it. It goes from top to bottom. So anything that comes after another keyword is going to override that same keyword. So that was a kind of a little simple thing to throw in there. Okay, so by doing this, all I had to do in this, let me open this up real quick. All I had to do in this particular icon was to put at the very end in parentheses the keyword, which is dash manager equals, and then whatever the identifier is. The identifier is not hard coded in the program. It's not hard coded at all. So it's actually in the ini file for the game config, and I'll show you that next. So this is where I can add this to that list of startup parameters. And once that list is built, then it'll process all the parameters, and then you will have a complete set of global configuration values. So, I hope that kind of makes a little bit of a sense because you don't have to repeat every single one. So, as an example, I'm going to scoot this out of the way here. So, as an example, if you were looking at the conflict utility ini. So, if you look here, you'll see that I'm trying to get this other thing over here. We'll get them both on the same time. Okay, so you can see the startup parameters here in the ini file, and all applications will have startup parameters. It's just inherent to how the whole thing is designed. The templates are designed, but it actually adds this to this list. So it'll add it. So this is loaded into memory, and then it just adds this to memory as well. So that way you only have to pass the parameters that are specific to whatever you want to do. You don't have to pass every single one of these. So if it's a very, very common thing, then you could put all of the startup parameters here. As an example, let's say that I want to have an icon for Fallout 3. I haven't tested these across the board, but I do switch games back and forth between Fallout 3, Fallout Vegas, and Fallout 4. and I don't see any errors popping up from the mod helper in the message log, so I'm assuming everything parses okay. Again, there's so many data points in here. There's so many different things that there is a there could be a chance somewhere in there. Very, it's very likely that somewhere, I've overlooked something or didn't have a complete understanding of something when I threw it together. And that is possible. So hopefully it'll work for Oblivion, and all of those. Now I haven't tested them on that, so I'm only testing one game as I go, and then I can flip to another game, and that way I can focus on just that game's data. Okay. I do know for a fact that I don't have, I'm positive I don't have Oblivion game saves or Skyrim game saves. I don't have the formats for those. Okay, so back onto this. So let's say that I had a Fallout 3, I wanted to check Fallout 3 using this same system. What I would do is I would put game over here and I would just put a space and then in parentheses I would put dash game Fallout 3. And I would then change that icon to a Fallout 3 icon. You could easily do that. That's not hard to do at all. And that way, you know that it's going to launch this application with under the guise of Fallout 3. And these names here, they're probably very similar to what Mod Organizer 2 uses. I got them from the registry. So when I was actually, because what my applications do is they will look to the registry for a game. You can say that that game is in an absolute folder. You can do that. But generally, when it's looking for a game, and I'll bring that up and show you here. So here you can see that there's registry keys. See the registry key? That's where Morrowind is found. But I could go into install path and make that a specific path. The data folder, it doesn't have to be this. This is configured by the user. This is just the default I use. So whenever you want to load a game, if you were looking over here, let's go back to here. So when you're looking for Fallout 4, Fallout Space 4, if you go this way, you will see a tag that is Fallout 4. Here, that's what it looks for. So if the dash game keyword, the value of that isn't in this file, then it's not going to know anything about the game. This configuration file is it's kind of set up so that games can be precisely configured. And there's a lot of other information in here. See version limits. You can do a lot of things. So it's kind of in a sense, it's self-documenting is what it is. Okay, so and I think with Mod Organizer 2, he uses the same game name. So we should be, everybody should be okay with that. Okay, so here's the new section I added. This is the new section right here. And all I do basically, okay, so in my applications, I use the the full name, what they call the full name to the plugin. It's the full name to the actual plugin. So if you look at a load order text file, if you look in plugin.txt, you'll see that it only has the file name, not the full file name, which includes the path to where that plugin is. In my application, I store the full path to where that plugin is. And the reason I do that is I want to be able to access that plugin very easily, because when I designed the application, it wasn't just designed for, just installing mods in a game. It was designed to be able to accumulate is one of the words, but it's not gather, it's not accumulate. To record is a way, but not really the word I'm looking for. It allows the program, it allows the libraries to save information about certain parts of the game, such as when I save the load order, for example, it doesn't just save a list of plugin names. It has plugin names. It's got folders that were used for those plugin names, the download files they came from. There's a lot of information that is stored in that tag for plugins. Well, I think what the developers of Mod Organizer 2 did, I didn't see any files there right off that would have a fully qualified plugin name. It looks like they had a file for plugin text, archives, and then they had a mod list, which was the folder names, and then they have a little identifier in front of the folder. So what I had to do is combine all that. It didn't take much code to do it, but I had to combine it in order to get a fully qualified name. So I use pretty much in mine, I think all mod managers do. They pretty much use the exact same data. So, they have the same types of data. In other words, you have like a mods folder, a downloads folder, an overwrite folder, things like that. So all I had to do is locate where, to parse. All I had to do was parse these files and then set up an already existing data structure. So it wasn't very difficult to do, and like I said, I don't use Mod Organizer 2, and I installed it, but I'm looking at blank files, and I was getting some help from some others, who was helping me with the contents of the data files, and so I can kind of look at them and see and do it accordingly. But this is the tag. That's what it looks at. So when I pass to it in that, I don't think I have it up still. Yeah, I don't. So when I pass that dash manager equals, that little text string, MO2, is what it finds here. It looks in this manager's tag, and this is what it loads. And what it generally does is override the data structures that everything uses. Whenever you open a game in the games library, it populates a giant structure, and this has all the information in the configuration file about that game, and then it has some extra information. So what I do is I replace certain of those fields. So instead of that field being, instead of, like, let's say the downloads folder being what is set up in the configuration file, it will now default to what I find here for whatever mod manager we're using. As you can see, Vortex is not set up. And that's pretty much how that works. So and I'll show you the code real quick. It really, really wasn't much, but it was interesting. Okay, I'll try to get this down here where you can see it. It is a limited window. Okay, let's go all the way up here. You can see I really, really heavily document this. It's easy on my eyes. Okay, so we don't want that one. What we want is right here. So I won't know if I need to add anything until I actually do Vortex. That's next. And like I said, I haven't tested this because I haven't tested this on, I've got a local instance, but then there's also, or a local installation, but then there's also an instance installation. And I think I included that as well, but I'll have to see. We'll have to see if it works. If it doesn't, I'll have to tweak it. It'd be easier to test if I use it, but I don't. Okay. All right, so this is really the code. This is where I simply parse the keywords for the mod manager in that MO2. This is where I parse it, and I set up replacement parameters. So these replacement parameters are something like, I think you can probably see it here. Let's get this over here, where you can see manager base. See, once I figure out what the base is, I create a replacement parameter, and anytime you want to use that base, you can put it there. Also, in the locals file, let's see if we can locate this fairly quickly. Is it here? There we go. You can see that, let me find one first. It should be in here, I would think. Or is it in the games? Probably in the games. Let's pop over here and grab. Here we go. All right, so let's do, yeah, sorry if this video is massive here. Okay, so let's see. Here we go. So it allows to set up these keywords, these little tags, whatever. It's just record. It's just a record, or what's a record identifier. So these are the new records I added. These are the new identifiers in the locals that I added. And it's also in the files, so you can see where they're defined in case for some reason any of these need to be changed, which is here. There's the explicit file names. So this is combined with one of these up here, probably the profile. Maybe it's the profile one. It's these two are combined. So it would be like FDR, 0210 slash, backslash, and then the file, and then the system, the code actually expands that out. But that's where that is. So I had to add that, which it wasn't too difficult to add. Once I got the parsing done, this is where this is the interesting part of the code, because I had to I I didn't see a direct way to tie the mod folder in modlist.txt directly to the plugin, which meant that what I had to do is when I had a folder, so a plus or a minus, what I had to do is I had to build or construct the path, the plugin's path, the path to that folder. I had to construct that. And then then I did that, I literally had to get a directory. I had to get a directory of all the files in that folder. And then if it is a plugin, see, this is in the games. This the games data is the data structure that is parsed when you open a game. When you load the games, it creates that database. And then once you open the game, it retrieves that structure from that database and then parses it out. It'll actually expand all those different values, like your environment variables, then variables in between the two percentages and all that, or percent signs. So I try to do this to cut down processing as much as possible. So it's only going to handle plugins, because we're looking for we're dealing with the load order. So what we need is the path to the plugin. So once I find the plugin, then what I need to do is I need to do a search, and that's what this is right here. So the actual search happens here. And this is just a little can thing I wrote, find item and list. And I can use a file pattern. So it only looks at the file name. But the problem with that is I'm dealing with the load order. So a load order can have an asterisk in front of it. So I need to take that in consideration. So if I couldn't find it, and that's what this is. This is doesn't care what the first character is. So if it can't find, let's say, an active character, if it can't find an active one, then it's going to look for the inactive name. Then if I find it, I actually assign, I update that record, that plugin name that was loaded into memory. I update that with the full name. That's pretty much how that works. And then if I can't do it, then I'll actually say, it actually throws up a message saying I couldn't do it. And some of the things with Mod Organizer 2, I noticed that he doesn't put like creation kit like plugins in his load order. He doesn't do that. Anything that's official, he kind of just drops it off. And that may be an option to set. I don't know. So some of these will pop up because, it might find, like, I think in the mod text, it actually shows, because it's native. It'll have it'll be like a DLC or something. He'll identify like a DLC, or, I think it's Creation Club. So he'll identify them that way. So therefore, and I could probably filter that out, but for right now, I'm just going to leave that in there. Anything that is an asterisk, from what I could tell in the mod list text file, anything that had an asterisk preceding it, it looked like it it existed in the games folder. Like unmanaged means it's in the game, and that would make sense because when you actually boot up, when Mod Organizer 2 boots up, it needs to look at the game folder and see if anything is already there. And if it is, then it needs to include that by saying, okay, I need to include this. This is unmanaged means it already exists in game. So I don't really have to deal with these because if they're in the game, then I can get these directly from the game folder. And that includes Creation Kit and all that if I have to. So I defer that to the open load order method in the load order library because it actually handles that. It handles a lot of different data types, a lot of different plugin record types. Like it could do like a plus plugin name, minus plugin name. There could be a load order rule, such as an asterisk here. It could do something like that, but this is not really the rule. This looks like the format he was using. And that's it. It was just that little bit of code to be able to reconstruct a folder, to reconstruct a full file name from two different files but I had to do it in a roundabout way by getting the directory of the folder and then matching the plugins I could find. So I don't know if that's the best way to do it. It's just kind of something I threw together as I was going about, as I was kind of going about it. But I do have, you can see over here, I do have the MO2, which passes MO2, and we're going to fire this one off. All right, let's go ahead. So hopefully this will work out of the box. Oh, and there's one more thing I need to show here in a second. So hopefully this will work out of the box for MO2 users. But there may be one thing you need to configure in order to get this to work. So for right now, let's just go ahead and do workshop. Let's go ahead and do this. I went ahead and this all is part of the library. I just didn't use it. And then I went ahead and just put a couple variables in and say, hey, I want you to throw a progress bar up, and there you go. Okay, so, and everything should still work. Everything should still work just fine. Another thing I want to show you before I get to the configuration, in any of these applications, in any of them, if you want to create a list that you can upload, what you can do is you can do Control H. And what Control H does is create a very, very simple HTML list. So we're just going to call this, let's go back to the desktop here. We're just going to call this, let's just call this something like just test. Be fine. We're going to call it test. All right, so now let me see if I can get to it here without this thing interfering. All right, yeah, I can't. So in effect, what it does, let's see if I hope this doesn't kick me off. Let's see, does it? Good, it did not. All right, I had this kind of minimized to the corner. All right, let's scoot that out of the way. Okay, so let's bring this up in the web browser, and I'll bring this over here where you can see it. So this is what it does. It's just a canned function in a library that does this for any list. It'll try to keep the formatting of it, and it will try to keep the colors if it's possible. And that way you can have something that has the colors. We know how uploading big giant red lines can kind of be confusing. But that's all there. Now, the one thing I do need to show you is this. Let's bring this back up. In the game configuration, let's get back over to this real quick. In the game configuration, here is the most important thing. And you don't use quotes because there's a bug in there with using quotes. Quotes really won't matter here. So what you do is you separate paths that you want to check with a comma. This is the default install path for Mod Organizer 2. I kind of just briefly buzzed through the registry, and I didn't see anything in there where he literally said, this is where I'm installed. So I'm assuming at this point, when you launch the icon, it gets the startup directory. Whenever you launch a program can look at its environment and say, where did I start from? Where is it? Where the executable that's running? What folder did it start from? And then you can get that for all your data files. So for here, I went ahead. I just took the default when I installed it just to kind of test it out. You might need to change this if you've installed it in a different location. So that's the actual local install. The instanced install should be found here, which is in the I think this is like a user's app data. So it would be like the app data folder. It would be like your boot drive. Let's say it's C. It would be like C users, your name. I think it's app data, and then he's got a mod organizer, and then that's the name of the game. And I believe this is where he stores his, because all of the files need to be unique. Plug-in text, all that needs to be unique per game. And since this is a single installation, it only has one installation. It only has like a one set of files. Whereas this over here stores different sets of files under this game name. It's still in app data, but well, actually it's in app data mod organizer, but it's all under a different game name. So I put this first because this is in precedence order. So I put this first. So so it will check for an instanced. It'll check instance first. So I don't know about mod organizer 2. Like I said, I haven't used it. I don't know if you could have a local install and a bunch of instance installs. I'm assuming you could. So I didn't want to check for this and have this point to something I didn't want to use. So I did, this is the first choice. If it can't find this, if it can't find it for, if it can't find it, app data game, it's going to look for a single install of the game on that drive. And that would be for whatever game it's supposed to be. Now, one thing I just thought of as I'm doing this, I don't check to see, I do access the mod organizer configuration file. I do have that. I do load that because I need to get the base directory if that changes, because if you notice, there's the base directory keyword for the base files. And then there's the selected profile. And this is necessary to determine how to handle this data record, because I think he's got them under a byte array. I just need the string. Okay, so yeah, so technically all you'd have to do is a single instance for, let's say, Fallout 4. You just do that. Hopefully this will pick up your game instance. If not, let me know and I'll take a look at it. Like I said, I don't use it, so I'm kind of working in the dark here. But other than that, that should be it. This is the only thing you would really have to hopefully configure, and it should work out of the box. All right, so I think I covered everything. Uh, if not, like I say, Vortex is not done. I have got to install it, and I got to take a look at the data files. My son actually uses it, so I'm gonna get him on the horn, and we're gonna walk through some of his directories, and I can get, hopefully, hopefully it'll be just as simple as just doing something like this. I can reuse the same code without any additional tweaks. But it's not much code. Most of the code you've seen where I parsed it was just where I was parsing my keywords and making sure replacement parameters were set up properly. But and hopefully Vortex will be easier, but I won't know until I actually do it. So, like I say, give it a shot. Let me know if it works. I didn't put there's nothing in there that actually says where it's getting the load order from, but you'll know. So if you start it up, if you actually start this up and it doesn't show a loading, let's go over here and see if we can do this again. If it doesn't show loading, see if it doesn't show this, then that means, because what it has to do is it's going to every folder, it's going to every plugin folder and looking for loose files, and it's looking for BA2 or BSAs so it can extract the file names. So if that seems really too quick, then it probably didn't work. But just drop a note or something and let me know, and I can take a look at it, because I won't. Like I said, I don't use it, so testing is kind of it takes time to get things tested, and to get it ironed out. All right. Well, I don't want to make this too long. That should pretty much cover it. I'm gonna go ahead and pack this up. And you don't want this right here is where it stores the forms placement. You don't want this, so we're going to delete that. I'm going to go ahead. All of these have there's some library changes. I'm currently working on cleaning up those custom libraries so I can get the source released. There's just a lot of work to do in there. There's a lot of untested code. I had a lot of ideas when I was developing, and I just started throwing things left and right. I just started literally, you gotta love Windows, man. It's like, hello, are you there? Yes, I am. Thank you for asking. Okay, so anyways, back to what I'm saying. So I just threw it in there. And it's just kind of I like to think in code at the same time. Not the best way to do it. Definitely not the best. So when I did that, some things worked as the data was defined originally, but the data really didn't have its final form, its final structure, and then the actual structures have changed. So that means some of those methods won't work properly because they were just kind of thrown together. Like, oh, if I put this here, oh, I can check this. Does that work? Oh, yeah, I like that. So I'm going to do this. So it was kind of like almost like a branching effect where it's like, you hop from one thing to the next and then you try to tie it all together and you're like, okay, yeah, this is not going to work. And that's what I have to do. I have to go back in and get that cleaned up. So that's what I'm working on now. And as soon as that's done, I will also get all of that put up as well. And that goes for this little mod manager interface. So all that will go up. Almost like I say, everything ever seen me use, all of that is either in those custom libraries, and I'm just calling a report, passing it some parameters, or it's custom reports that are unique to that mod helper interface. But eventually I'm going to move them over to the library so everything is canned. Okay, so I think that about covers everything. Let me know if you have any problems. I'm going to pack this up and go ahead and link this on the forums. And yeah, if you need anything or you have any problems, just feel free to let me know and I will see what I can do. Hope you guys have a great evening.